Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishtaya Buddhale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivasesha Sunyavari Pashtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so for those who might be listening to the recording, we just had a few minutes of catching up. I'm in the USA, in Houston. Beautiful temple, by the way, beautiful temple, large car park, really wonderful facilities. Devotees live, the congregation live all around. I just saw there's a street here in by the temple called Radha. It's called Radha. The street is called Radha. There's devotees coming out of houses everywhere. So it's really wonderful to be here in Houston. Beautiful deities. Those of you know Radha Madhav in Mayapur, the deities here are 1 inch smaller than Radha Madhav in Mayapur. Huge deities. Very astounding deities. Okay, so without further ado, as I've already said once, let's begin. So now what I thought I would do, I'm jumping forward into chapter 20. Obviously, that means last week, or not last week, the last session, we was doing, we was on, excuse me, let me just get the right, just bear with me a minute. We was on chapter 19, and chapter 19 was speaking about attachment to love. So from a Shakti to Prema. Yeah. And so we spoke quite a bit about that. The symptoms of bhava, the symptoms of prema. It's all very wonderful and exciting to hear. So please don't mind if I'm just, we had 3 slides to complete on chapter 19. But I thought because we missed a couple of weeks, I thought it'd be good to start kind of, you might say, as a fresh and move into the next part of Suddha Bhakti Cintamani. So if there is any additional or questions that come up about from a Shakti to Prema, we can try and answer. But other than that, let's just go into what's called part 4 in Suddha Bhakti Chintamani. So I have some slides which give all the chapters. Now I won't go through all the chapters we've done, but what we're discussing from now on is the final part of of Suddha Bhakti Chintamani. So it consists of 10 more chapters, and that completes our study of the whole book. So let me just go back to, for a quick flash review on part 2. What was it? Part 3. We gave a systematic overview, though, of the stages of pure devotion. And that's going to, and why we have done that is evidence in part 20. So we will get there. I'll describe it. So this is what we describing the progression of Krishna consciousness from even before Shraddha, even before and before that one actually meets devotees. We describe all these different stages. You might remember some of this. Agata Sukruti, acts that lead to semblance of devotion. Then the stages in semblance of devotion. We spoke about that. Now words from working with attachment and working without attachment and developing knowledge, and then developing pure faith in Krishna. That becomes one's principle in life. One's goal in life becomes Krishna. Nothing else. That means one is a pure devotee. One is on the path of Suddha Bhakti. So describe that. We went into quite some detail about unsteady devotional service. and importance of, therefore, definitely the importance of associating with devotees and initiation. And we spoke about causes of unsteady devotion, not following the rules and regulations given by the spiritual master, acts that increase unsteadiness, making offenses to the holy name. And here we discussed that a bit more. Offenses to the holy. Do you remember that discussion? It was quite scary. The impediments that it can make if we make these 10 offenses, it can linger on like a cancer throughout the whole devotional career. So we really want to make sure we are not making offenses that will make us steady in our devotional practices. Describe that. And the symptoms of nishta, then ruchi. After nishta comes ruchi, and describe the symptoms of that. And here, and then we discussed this very exciting discussion, the maturing of attachment, devotional service in bhava, devotional service in love, and the phases of pure love. So please forgive me, we've jumped over this part. The phases of pure love, and love matures into devotional mellows. Now, I will go back and retouch on this subject as we go through part 4. Okay, so part 4, we're going to qualify. We're going to hear about these subjects. I'll let you read them on the slide. There you go. You have to read quickly. 4 types of hearing, speaking about Krishna, the effects of proper hearing, hearing about Lord Chitta. Actually, I'll speak it. Knowing about truth about Krishna's pastimes, convincing the faithless to hear. Book distribution is for everyone. Yikes. Somehow the faithless should hear, etc. No, I won't go. It takes too much time to go for all the title of the parts of each chapter. Okay, so that's a quick flash review of what we've done and a quick flash review of what we're going to do. Now, let me share what part we're going to do today. Where did that go? Did it go here? Yes. Everyone can hear okay? Yes. All 3 of you? You can hear okay? Hare Krishna. All right, so now the first Maharaj re-emphasizes this point. The first 19 chapters, it gives us a broad overview of the science of devotional service. And it is a science, and we have to understand it in that way. And then we can make good progress in devotional service if we actually understand the intricacies of devotional service. So we gave a broad overview. Maharaj gave a broad overview. Now, as I mentioned before, that broad overview gives us a main foundation for this study, or for the book Suddha Bhakti Cintamani, because it helps us to understand our qualification, or the subjects that are most appropriate for us, or perhaps others who are preaching to hear and chant at one's various stages of devotional development. So as we become evident, there is practices which beginners should not do, that more advanced devotees should do, or subjects they may hear or may not hear about. So, as you can recall, Suddha Bhakti Cintamani comes in the Krishna in Vrindavan series written by Maharaj, Shivaram Sai Maharaj. And when he was writing Venu Gita, Parayaham, and Krishna Sangati, many devotees were inquiring from him what's the qualification for them reading such books about Krishna's pastimes, sometimes a little quite intimate, you could say, the gopis. So Maharaj wrote Suddha Bhakti Cintamani based on those questions, so we can ascertain our qualification for hearing specific pastimes of Krishna. So now having laid the foundations and laid out the different stages of devotion, Maharaj is going to hone in on this point, you know. So, so this is the last part of Suddha Bhakti Chintamani. Also, Maharaj writes here, he is hoping to achieve two purposes in on ISKCON's behalf. So it's what you have here in this study or this book is a detailed study of how to systematically cultivate specifically chanting, otherwise known as Nam Bhajan. The cultivation of chanting for advanced stages is sometimes termed as Nam Bhajan. So how to systematically cultivate that. And we're also going to hear how hearing and chanting about Krishna's pastimes and what role it plays in our Pacific advancement. Okay, any questions as usual or clarifications, please feel free to hear. Yeah. So these books that Maharaj has written, and since he's written Suddha Bhakti Chintamani, he's written other books as well. Tabakatamritam is another one. Some Kavakumudi is that's on a slightly different subject. It's not specifically of Krishna Lila pastimes, it's philosophy. That's a whole wonderful study. We might venture into that after this. Let's see. And then we have Vilapakusmanjali that Maharaj has written since that. And that has brought up lots of questions from devotees. The subject matter is not normally spoken of in general classes in our ISKCON society. So this study of Suddha Bhakti in Time is very relevant for that. Can we read it? Should we read it? Etc. Okay, some of you might have it, Vilapakusmanjali at home on your shelves. Okay, so we can discuss all of that. That's also we can going to look at all of that. So now Shravanam and Kirtanam. This is this particular study. This is what we're studying here. We were also going to refer to some other of the 62 items of devotional service. Rupa Goswami gives 64 angas of devotional service in practice and consequently in perfection. So we're going to mainly this study from now on is going to be speaking about hearing and chanting, but also going to be referring to some angas of devotion. Devotional practice. One of them, for example, is deity worship. Okay, this is so Maharaj, because he could write so much about all the angas of bhakti, yeah, but specifically it's focused on Shravanam, Kirtanam. So this is the weight of this, or this is the main substance of this part that we're getting into now. Yeah, Maharaj is going to speak about the purifying process of deity worship, archan, and how it's could say it's essential for us. And we describe why that is so. And I'm teaching about deity worship in a moment. So an interesting discussion. So deity worship, also we're going to speak about smaranam. We have Shravanam, Shravanam, Vishnu, Smaran. What's it? How does the 9 angas of devotion? Shravanam, Shravanam. Anyone can remind me? Shravanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Matamit. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, excuse me. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. So we can look into Smaranam. Now, Smaranam, not in the sense of I've forgotten something, what is my memory like, but Smaranam in the sense of your absorption during Shravan Kirtan, your Smaranam. What do you remember when you chant the holy name, or when you're engaged in kirtan, or in Lord, or serving the Sankirtan mission? Okay. So yes, yes. So this is what it means. So Nam Bhajan, I'll just read this sentence here. When devotees worship the Lord's transcendental form and remember what they have heard of his glories, the smaranam, the chanting of his names becomes a nectar for which they always hanker. Yeah, so that's known as Nam Bhajan. Okay. Any questions or comments? Going once, going twice, going three times. And it's quite hot there in the UK, I heard, isn't it?
It's 30 degrees.
Well, Alexander's got his sun hat on. It's 30 degrees, yeah?
30 degrees, yes. I'm on a tree.
Wow. You're on a tree. 30 degrees. I was in Raj and it was 42. It was a bit of all right, back to the subject. So here's some criterion for entering into our understanding Nam Bhajan that Maharaj lays out here, and we discuss each of these. So this is for those who seriously want to embrace systematic worship. So systematic worship of what? Of the holy name. So it has a foundation. If we really want to focus on and cultivate the chanting of the holy name through different stages, Maharaj maps out these 5 important points. Yeah. So these are essential if we want to obtain success or perfection in our spiritual practice. Okay. And not, as Maharaj writes here, be allured by the illusory energy of the Lord in our practice, which sometimes happens. Yes. So I just read them and then we'll speak about them. So, one, that the basis of devotional service in practice is chanting the holy names. Okay, one fundamental point. 2, for those who want to enter into Nam Bhajan, that devotees may take up progressively more advanced practices only as they become qualified. We'll expand that has 2 aspects. We'll speak about that. That chanting comprises japa and all other forms of sankirtan. So in other words, not just japa, there's other forms. That one should engage in the practices of devotion as much as possible in the company of like-minded devotees. So what are they? Who are they in our Gaudiya Vaishnav line? And 5, that cultivation relating to one's spiritual form, some of you may have heard the word Surup Siddhi, is possible only at a specific stage, and that's bhava, that's when the cultivation really begins. And as Maharaj then mentions, later in this part, Maharaj is going to spell out these points in detail. Okay? So number 1, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is the basis for cultivating pure devotion. So this is where we can go to. Sometimes you ever been sitting down or going about your business in a devotional practice and you want to make advancement. What can I do right now to make advancement? Shall I do this? Shall I do that? Well, you can always pick up your japa beats. That's guaranteed. If you can pick up your japa beats and you can fix your mind on the sound of Krishna's name, yeah, that's the best means, as we know, for cultivating pure devotion. So pure devotion has to be cultivated. It's not going to fall out the sky on our head. Yeah, we have to learn to cultivate it. This is what this study is all about, how to cultivate pure chanting. Yeah. So it's the basis of our cultivation is chanting the holy name, because by chanting the holy name, it's non-different from Krishna. So it releases, or devotees then, or you could say releases its potencies to the sincere practitioner. And it's the holy name which is going to empower us to ascend to the higher stages of devotion. Yeah. So according to the Maharaj writes here, to the strength and purity of our chanting, that's going to empower us to reach different levels of devotional development or different levels of love for Krishna. So so there we can understand it's the basis of our devotional practice. So let's understand that very clearly. Maharaj is asking that of us to understand this point very clearly, because the more pure, because Krishna's pure. We have a class that we do here when we're teaching deity worship. It's called Approaching the Supreme Pure, which is Krishna in the form of his deity there specifically. But actually, to that degree that our heart is pure, to that degree we can be more absorbed in Krishna consciousness. We can go deeper. Yeah. And the more, then the other stages of devotion become more accessible to us. So it depends upon the purity of heart. So Jito Darpanam Marjam. This is what we're doing. We're cleansing the mirror of the heart so we can go deeper, deeper in our absorption of Krishna and access the higher stages of advancement. So, because as we know, I think we mentioned last time, we chant out of in the beginning we chant out of duty, and that's quite apparent when we make promise to chant 16 rounds. We mentioned that last class, I think. Which for those who take initiation, who take Diksha initiation, then part of the ceremony means that you're going to promise to chant 16 rounds. Yeah, you're signing a contract. So that's quite dutiful. And it has to be there. So initially, this chanting out the duty, later it will mature into loving, Maharaj describes, later through that obligation, it will mature into something that into loving devotion. It's an aspect of your kind of appreciation of Krishna is that you chant these names. So 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 we chant to achieve love of Godhead. Those who have love of Godhead chant because they're in love. Right? We chant because we want love. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, give me love, give me love. I want to experience love of God. But those who have love of God, they can't stop chanting. And that's why they're chanting, because they love Krishna. They love Radha and they love Krishna, they love the inhabitants of Raj, so they chant the holy name. So obviously they're going to chant not minimum, maximum, according to your situation, to your work, your family commitments, whatever it may or may not be. So in the beginning, it's a funny vow we make, isn't it? I promise to chant a minimum of 16 rounds, but it's a minimum. Actually, in one sense, it means you can chant more than that. But that will sometimes, going off that, sometimes devotees who are at the stage of early stages of Krishna consciousness, they experiment. I'm going to chant 64 rounds, I'm going to chant 32 rounds, I'm going to chant 108 rounds. They've heard about it, but they may not have so much taste or attraction. It's nice they can do it, but it's very difficult. If they don't have any natural taste, it can become quite laborious, dare we say, if one doesn't have the requisite purity of heart or taste. But still, it's good. It's good to try it. It's good to experiment. Okay. But anyway, the point I'm making here is that those real worshippers of the name, they never give up their chanting. Yeah, whatever stage, practice, or power or perfection. So, very important point. Number two. Okay, so we've covered the first one quite briefly. That the basis of devotional service in practice is chanting the holy names. Yeah, that's clear. Yes, I can hear everyone saying, yes, that's clear. Okay, number two. Yeah, the way devotes, yes, you can see it there. I just saw, I won't read it again, but commenting on this, this we mentioned, and this will come up a lot. This point will come up a lot in this chapter here and other chapters as well, chapter 20. So to take up higher stages without perfecting the lower, okay? So before we give examples in time we have of what this actually practically means, but to take up a higher stage without perfecting the stage that you are on or the lower stage, yeah? Or the other way, or the other side is to remain at a lower stage and not move to the highest stage and the practices thereof when you're qualified to do so. Yeah. So Maharaj has mentioned this quite a few times in lectures as well. So for example, different topics are suitable for hearing at different stages. So it's the quality of faith each devotee has that's gonna determine your eligibility to hear and what subjects to hear. Now, that in turn is going to determine which topics are suitable for you personally or maybe for others. Yeah. So we're going to elaborate more on that of how we can determine and increase we can determine where we are and what subjects and increase our eligibility to hear. All right. So number two. Number three, there's different ways to chant. As we know, we can chant by oneself. That's known as japa, silently or aloud, so we can hear ourselves, or with other devotees in a temple or public places. That's also cultivating Nam Bhajan. Like I was blessed to be in the kirtan with 4,000 devotees here in America at Sadhu Sangha, and it was ecstatic. It was wonderful. B.B. Govinda Maharaj was leading. Achyuta Gopi, very wonderful singer of the holy name. She was doing Leela Kirtan, very nice, interesting. And other great kirtaniyas were there. That's wonderful, absolutely wonderful, chanting the holy name in Sankirtan, where we all get together to cry for Krishna, calling from our hearts. Yeah. So there's different ways, okay, to chant. Yeah, japa, kirtan, sankirtan. Yeah. Or we do street Harinam Sankirtan. Some of you might be able to get the blessings to take part in Harinam occasionally. Some more, some less, depends on your situation or where you are. And also this also teaching the glories, when if you're telling someone about Krishna, you happen to be devotees, you're giving advice to, that's also considered to be chanting the holy name of the Lord, chanting to devotees, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, become very dear to Krishna, and also preaching appropriately to non-devotees. It's part of our mission. So, yeah, Maharaj writes here, I'll just read this. Preaching also means to speak, write books, conduct dramas, right? and inaugurate novel ways to spread the chanting. So this is what ISKCON is about, the novel spreading the holy name through somehow or another, get people to chant. Yeah. All these activities, not only meditative, solitary japa. Now, when they're done without the fence, they help us to cultivate the holy name and achieve perfection. So it's not just your japa in your front room before your deities, wherever you may be, but also these other activities will help. If cultivated and done without offense, they help us to achieve perfection. In writing books, writing dramas, taking part in dramas, preaching to devotees, preaching to non-devotees, that's going to water your bhakti ladha bija in relationship to Krishna's holy name. Yeah. Number 4. So we should do this. We have to cultivate this in the company of devotees. Very important point to remember. We are part of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So amazing. Prabhupada said this aphorism before he left his body. That your love for me will be shown how you cooperate once I've gone. What a statement. How can any disciple forget that statement? Probably a brilliant statement, isn't it? That means even if you're not getting on with devotees or having some quarrel, Prabhupada's saying, if you really love me, you better get on. You better get on with the Vaishnavas, you know? Brilliant Prabhupada, empowered by the Lord to keep ISKCON society together, you know? So, but specifically also means we, unlike others, and we generally do not resort to solitary practice. This will be described in later chapters. We do solitary practice in our japa, no doubt. We may have some time out where we may do that, but other than that, we have service to the Sankirtan movement. There is a group of Vaishnavas which we should be very respectful to. They are known as, they take the Babaji line, and we describe about that later, where they only do solitary bhajan. And that's what they do. You can see them, you go to Vrindavan, there's many of them actually, hundreds and hundreds of them around Radhakund, all different ages from all different countries, some young, some etc. They dress in a certain way, and as a whole, that's called they're known as Babajis. We are in a different line. We are the Angas of Lord Chaitanya. We are spreading the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So those are the devotees we want to be in the company of, hearing from them and associating with them. Doesn't mean when you see a Babaji, no, you should give great respect to everyone. Yeah? Different lines. Yeah. So Marge mentions that. We describe more about that. And number 5 here. So this comes up quite a bit. You probably and it's good that it comes up more than once. Devotees, I just read this part here, ascend to the spiritual platform. So the spiritual platform only happens at the stage of bhava, okay? And we described all the different stages. We already described that. So bhava is quite a wonderful stage, It's only at this stage that one has realization of their spiritual persona in relationship to Krishna. And it's only at that stage that is cultivated. So in other words, Marge mentions here, so qualified practitioners. So bhava is still the stage of practitioners, okay? In one sense, they're liberated, but they haven't achieved perfection. All right. But qualified practitioners, though, one may feel attracted to a specific mood or rasa. Now, they may then accept certain what is called more spontaneous or regulative services according to that qualification. But Maharaj says they should never prematurely, we'll speak about this more when we get there, but shouldn't prematurely adopt spiritual practices which is beyond their qualification. Even if they have a spontaneous attraction, they shouldn't, for example, imagine what's known as Ekadasha Bhava. So Ekadasha means 11, Bhava means you don't artificially meditate on your form as a Gopa, your name, the way you dress, where you live, who your friends are. There's 11, and there's more. Ekadasha Bhava. That is not a subject of mental speculation, of wishing. I am and imagining one is. It's revealed from the spiritual platform and confirmed by the Guru. So we shouldn't want to enter into that realm. You may read about it. You can read about it in Harinam Cintamani. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes about it, Ekadasa Bhava, and other places as well. Okay, is that clear for everyone? So these are, yes, these are the essentials before we go any further. Yeah, the criterion for the worship of the name. Okay. And please, devotees, if you are listening to a recording or a few devotees here, you'll find it nice. Some of you might be doing already, but it's nice if once we have a class on this chapter, after the class and in your own time, read through it yourself. Read through that chapter, and you'll find, oh yeah, I can remember that. I can remember that. And also, if you're really reading attentively, there's some things which I might not bring out here. I mean, when I got this presentation together, it's not possible for me to repeat every sentence that Maharaj writes in Suddha Bhakti Cintamani. I've tried to give the essence of what he's saying, and I've included certain aspects. And some parts I miss because Maharaj elaborates on parts of what he's spoken. Anyway, according to my inspiration, I've got this presentation together. So when you read it, there might be something, oh, he didn't mention that. And then you can ask me and question me. Why didn't you mention this? Why didn't you mention that? You can put me on the spot. So just for information, it's very good. We're studying it. It's very good to read as well. Read the textbook that we're studying, not just listen to these classes, and you'll find it'd be good. It'd be good. It'd be good. I mean, even myself, I've got this presentation together, and I give the class, and I love reading the chapter. Often I might read the chapter after I've given the class, just to clarify points or just before, because this is a study that we're doing, systematic study. Okay. Right, let's get back on track. Let's move to the next slide. Here we go. Okay. So this is the main thrust of this last part of Suddha Bhakti Cintamani. Okay. So we're going to discuss the prerequisites. So for performing Nam Bhajan. And this verse, Maharaj, those who listen to Shivaram Swami Maharaj or read his books, he quotes this verse so many times. Yeah. Here it is from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sway dikara ya nishta. So adhikare, so one's position, nishta. Yeah. Steadiness in one's own position. Yeah. Nishta. Adhikar. Yeah. Is declared to be actual piety. Whereas deviation from one's own position is considered impious. In this way, the two are definitely ascertained. Now, this verse and why it's being quoted will become more apparent as we discuss. So just keep, it's here on the slide. Oh, one thing I didn't do, which I would like doing lately. There you go. Is that better? Something. You can see me, unfortunately, and the slide. Okay. So, Sri Sridhakara Nisha. So keep this in mind. This very important point. Because it's describing how, as conditioned souls, and I'm sure We don't have to remind ourselves we are conditioned to what? To Maya. It describes how we can elevate ourselves to the stage of love. So by systematic following the Vedas or prescriptions that's given. So here specifically we're speaking about the progressive path consists of spiritual practices. Specifically, we're speaking about here, like hearing of Krishna, it becomes increasingly more developed. This hearing should become, we have to develop this hearing of Krishna. So the key to advancement is steadiness. So if we can remain steady in our particular, find out where we are and our specific progress in spiritual practice, and remains, don't try and jump to stages you're not qualified for. And remember, we mentioned also be aware when you should enter into the next stage. Yeah. And we've got a few minutes left. So it's very important that Marge can give some examples practically for us to see what is being explained here. So yeah, so the key is steadiness. By being steady, you develop the adhikar to go to the next stage. Yeah. If you just stay steady, I mean, that's generally what the spiritual master likes to see. Devotees are steady. Please get to the stage of being steady in their spiritual practices. Then they're qualified for other stages of devotion. If they're not steady, one's not qualified to move forward. One has to work on being steady. So that's why this verse is so important. Yeah, if they're unable to follow their spiritual duties, swadharma, when we take up spiritual life, you get given a new set of duties. You have your material duties. There's two types of swadharma, duties according to your position in varnashram, and duties according to the spiritual, to your Krishna consciousness. So we have to be, if one is one should be, if one's incapable of following their spiritual duties, basic spiritual duties they've been given by the spiritual master, one is unqualified. Yeah. So, and then as we mentioned, another aspect of irreligion, Maharaj uses the words irreligion, is to adopt, no, it's same subject, but to adopt spiritual practices more advanced than what one is qualified. It becomes irreligious, actually. It becomes a dharma. Yeah. Now, the result is that one's going to fall down from one's status. Yeah. One's going to fall down. Yeah. And then the other aspect is to neglect the duties of a higher stage in at which one is steadily situated. Yeah. So you'll find this described in Nectar of Instruction, text 2, the word niyamagraha. Yeah. So these are two forms of irreligion, niyamagraha. So one is a kind of spiritual impertinence, where one is at a lower stage, but taking up the practices of as if one's at ruchi or shakti, but really one is at the stage of just trying to become steady, yeah, or just trying to convince oneself about a lifelong practice of bhakti, yeah. So one is a spiritual impertinence, and one is a spiritual lethargy. So that's mentioned in Nectar of Instruction. You can read about that. That word specifically, niyamagraha. Also, Maharaj quotes also from Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives some elaboration on this as well in his book Bhakti Loka. You can read that. But back to the point here. This is not just specific for us. It's specific for anyone in the world. You don't take up a practice to what you're not qualified. I remember I have some experience. I did work in the world before I became a brahmachari. I had a job, steady job, believe it or not. I used to work as a carpenter. So when I first started working as a carpenter, my first job was to um, nail floorboards down, yeah, on joists and hold the nail, bang the nail, put the floor. I was not qualified for fitting a front door. I was not qualified for pitching a roof. Later, I became qualified. Actually, I didn't quite make it for pitching a roof. I got stolen by the Hare Krishna movement. But I got to the stage of I could hang front doors, I could build walls, but I wasn't qualified for what's called joinery work. I couldn't make intricate cupboards and furniture. It's called a first fix. I could build walls, I could hang doors, I could hang windows, I could cut holes in roofs and put lights in things. I was not qualified. And for me to, go on a building site and then go and try to hang a front door would be a disaster. So, I mean, so you get the idea. It's there in the world. It's there for non-devotees. Yeah. Um, so especially for spiritual life then. Yeah. So with each stage of spiritual life, it comes with unique sets of do's and don'ts. So this is quite interesting. I think Shivaram Swami Maharaj was the first senior devotee to really point this out and to flag this out and to flag this up about sadhana according to qualification. Your focus on the Pacific sadhana may change. I mean, it's one sense is obvious, but without the sadhus pointing it out, it's not so obvious. Yeah, but there are there are specific do's and don'ts for these different stages of Krishna consciousness that we have already spoken about, and I want to get to giving some examples. So um, let's just jump ahead, miss a few sentences here, and jump ahead. A practical example. Okay, so what does this look like practically? What might it look like? So now Marge gives a progression here to help us understand this. So when we enter into the path of pure devotion, Bhakti Lada Bija, the path of pure devotional service, we have a duty. The first duty is to become steady in chanting. Yeah, that's why, isn't it? It's the first duty. I don't know if you have experience of being in a temple community and you got new people coming. Often, and they're coming, and the first question often asked is, how many rounds you're chanting? Oh, 2 rounds. Great, well done. How many rounds did you chant? Oh, actually, 5 rounds. Oh, how many? Oh, actually, I didn't chant any rounds yesterday. Yeah. So their preaching you want to give to them and their duty, and there is no other duty. Their duty is to become steady in chanting, whether it's 5 rounds, 2 rounds, to stay steady. Yeah. And then they have a duty that comes after that, or maybe even before that, and to help that is the regulative principles. We want to see if we're following it, and those that we're guiding, we want to give them guidance and help and strength in following the regulative principles. That's their duties for their stage. Yeah. And in the beginning, I mean, I have experience as a brahmachari. My first services when I moved into the temple was cleaning the stairs. And there's lots of stairs in our temple. Actually, I counted them one time. I forget, there's like 375 steps, if you wanted to know. Yeah, so my first duty was cleaning the stairs, menial services, which is good, purifying. Yeah, so it becomes steadying that. So it may be, Marge mentions maybe washing the pots, cleaning the bathrooms. You have specific duties. Now, of course, that can be continued even in the higher stages of devotion, but one's actual qualification for newcomer is not to give Srimad Bhagavatam class or not to do deity worship. You can imagine if they ask, they've just joined the ashram and they want to dress Radha Krishna. That would be impertinent. They do not have the qualification. They do not have the required steadiness in their practice. Yeah. But in time, through these practices, one's heart's going to become purified. One's going to get faith in the holy name. That's going to increase their steadiness in their service. They become steady in their sadhana. They become steady in their vows. And now, if they manage that, at least for a year, that's what Prabhupada gave, then they may go to the next stage. And that's Harinam initiation. Yeah. It sounds quite straightforward and obvious, but again, there's various reasons. Sometimes you may meet devotees that chanting 16 rounds and they don't get initiated until 20 years later. We shouldn't laugh in one sense. We're just pointing out, it depends on the specific situation. We don't want to criticize devotees. But it is a stage that you want to look forward to if you are chanting steadily 16 rounds. Yeah. If you're doing that, you're qualified for initiation. If you're steadily following regular principles, steadily chanting 16 rounds, then actually what happens, it happens quite naturally from what I've seen. Someone who is steady, they are chanting, they are following regular principles, naturally the questions about Guru and Harinam start to rise in their heart. It starts to become a duty that Krishna is showing them, okay, next step. Yeah. Next step. I mean, you should take that next step. Yeah. So, Harinam initiation. Now, through the blessings of the holy name, initiated devotees may then be given greater responsibility. Yeah. So, I mean, that happened for myself. After some time, I got put in charge of the ashram. I don't know why, but they put me in charge of the ashram. So I had different duties then. Then I was in charge of the Sankirtan, then I was in charge of the head la 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 la. Yeah. So you may be asked to guide younger devotees. I remember the first time I was asked to take out a traveling Sankirtan party and to lead it. I was very unsure, but my superiors told me, no, you are qualified. Go do it. Get in the van. Take it out. So perhaps so you can understand, Marge is really making it clear here in practically. Now this doesn't, we've just got 5 minutes left. Now this continues throughout one's spiritual life, these different duties. If we're chanting with attention and we're making progress, there will be different things we should do or stop doing after 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years. It doesn't stop. It doesn't, because obviously the next stage is obviously you may be asked to give Srimad Bhagavatam class. Yeah. Yeah. And then one would expect it to increase their spiritual practices by cultivating sattva, cleanliness, austerity, and tolerant. Now, when devotees are seen to have these qualities, and especially chanting Hare Krishna, next is they may be offered mantra diksha, or what's known as second initiation. Yeah. And then these devotees are recognized, should be exemplars and teachers to others. And also that opens up worshipping the deity and performing. Some may take up performing homa or fire sacrifices, Maharaj mentions here. Yeah. So just read this sentence here. By rigorous study and application of scripture, they continue to advance through the stages of pure devotion, one step after another, until they reach the ultimate goal of life. So by rigorous study, we may not be so may or may not be so inclined to rigorous study. It's good if you are. If not, we should like to hear from those who are studying. We should like to hear from devotees who are studying, and in that way understand the whole science of devotion. And according to our capacity as well, we should want to understand. There's many courses you can do, Bhakti Sastri, Bhakti Vaibhava now. They're all out there. So Maharaj mentions point here that is mentioned is that we must know the duties that are appropriate to the various stages of Krishna consciousness, and we should apply it to our spiritual life. And Maharaj gives the words with balance. Yeah. So I read the last 3 sentences here so we can complete this slide. Okay, as already mentioned, they should perfect the devotional practices that fit the stage of advancement they have attained, and then move forward to the practices of the next stage. When they do so, their ability to adopt more elevated sadhana is guaranteed. Equipped with such knowledge and determination, devotees automatically advance through successive stages to ultimate perfection. In short, automatic advancement is a natural part of, rather than alternative to, educated efforts to attain perfection. Yeah. So Marge is making a point here that sometimes it's misunderstood, and we have covered this in a previous class, that somehow or another I just chant Hari Bol and I eat prasadam and I hang out around the temple and I come to the temple and I'm going to go back to Godhead. Without really understanding the details of the science of devotion, then you will automatically develop love of Godhead. Yeah, that's what Marge is mentioning here. Equipped with such knowledge and determination, devotees will then automatically advance through the different stages. It's not just by hanging around the Hare Krishnas. Without really knowing, without developing transcendental knowledge, you're not going to automatically advance. You automatically advance when you develop transcendental knowledge and determination. Yeah. Then you're going to, the knowledge of different stages as we're describing here. Okay. So your time is 7 o'clock, is that right? Well, it's still quite light there in UK. I guess it gets very light. Okay, let's pause there. And next week we'll move on to this slide. Okay. So quite exciting what we're discussing now. So yeah, next week should be okay. I'm going to try and organize it in such a way. There's other teachers here, so hopefully I can join you next week. And I'll try and give more notice as well. So it's a bit late notice here. Neri Mother, you had your hand raised.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Yes, I
Krishna.
have a question.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
These qualifications that you need to have before you move from different sadhanas, okay,
Yeah.
different practices. Does that also refer to studying? Like if you want to study something that's like, just let's assume you are on a lower platform in your devotion, and you want to study like Srimad Bhagavatam. Do you have to be qualified to do that, or can you just go on to study that
Well,
if you are capable of understanding the subject?
Well, Nasta Preshu Bhatrishu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Hearing, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, is for everyone at every stage of Krishna consciousness. For the raw beginner, for those who first step into the temple, for the Kanishta, for the Madhyam, and for the Uttam. So Srimad Bhagavatam, in that sense, everyone, it's there for everyone in Kali Yuga. Yeah, and it's presented in such a way that everyone can study it. Now, having said that, there's different parts of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam itself, if studied nicely, it gives you the qualification to then progress, say, to the 10th canto. So without studying the previous 1 to 9, cantos 1 to 9, you don't have the requisite faith to understand Krishna, the pastimes in 10th canto. So that's also should be understood as well at the different specific. And when one is first taking up Krishna consciousness, so for example, someone is not at the stage of a Shakti or Ruchi or steadiness, they're not going to generally not qualify to do a detailed study of certain aspects of the 10th canto. But when one develops some taste in Krishna consciousness, then they may be qualified to actually do so. So do you understand? So it's, yes, everyone should hear Srimad Bhagavatam, but you're not going to go into a systematic study and include it in your smaran of the 10th canto, for example, if you don't have the requisite qualification. You're just going to hear it in the course of your regular hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam within the temple. Then you can hear it. But as far as taking it up as a specific smaran and meditation, you may not be qualified for. So did that answer your question, Mother?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Yeah. So everyone attend Bhagavatam class. Don't wait. Yeah. Alexander Ji.
You mentioned, Prabhu, remembering during chanting.
Yes.
And my question is around this. For example, before I used to, during chanting, sometimes you have this random thoughts that you need to bring your awareness back to the sound vibration of your voice. But
Yeah.
if that narrative is actually remembrance of sweet verses or a combination of or remembering your Maharaj, is that favorable, or you need also to bring your attention back to the sound vibration of your voice?
It can be, it cannot be. You have to ascertain it for yourself. If you find in doing that you're not chanting properly, or you're not chanting the holy name, you're not chanting all the syllables, or it's kind of, it has to be seen, has to be kind of a natural, because what you're speaking about, that's the that's the stages of smaran generally taken up devotees who are developing a taste for the holy name. Okay, so this whole discussion in of itself, you may hear about devotees at the stage of ruchi, that it is called what's it called, Swadasiki meditation, or meditating upon a description of Krishna given in the Srimad Bhagavatam while you're chanting. Yeah. So you may hear about that, but you may find you don't have the requisite purity of heart to really swim in that. You're doing it out of intellect. Devotees, when they chant, they meditate like this. Krishna is entering the forest of Vrindavan. He has blue kanika flower on his ears. He has a Vaijayanti garland, and a dhoti has a gold, and it's like the beautiful descriptions. And you may be trying to do it intellectually. You don't have a natural taste for it, or you don't have the requisite purity of heart. So you won't be able to stay in that meditation. It'll be quite arduous. It won't be natural if you're not qualified. But if you're qualified, it will be natural. It will enhance your smaran of the holy name, and they will enrich each other. See, that's where you have to ascertain with guidance from seniors of what your specific, what is good for you and what is not good for you. So it may be artificial, but then again, it may not be artificial. So then you can speak with senior devotees to ascertain, really if you're qualified for that type of practice. It's not for everyone, but it's not for everyone, but it may be for some. Did that help?
Yeah, so this, because they can be random. I'm only asking about when this happens spontaneously, when you're not really thinking about this, but all of a sudden you've remembered yourself, I mean, some verses, sweet verses that you've been inspired with,
Yeah, and
They
that's
just
yeah, go on.
came in your mind during chanting?
Yeah, and that's nice, and that comes even to those who may not be at the stages of ruchi and the shakti, especially if you're hearing the pastimes, especially if you're reading the pastimes. Yeah, so it's naturally these things may come to mind, but it may not. It doesn't automatically mean you should cultivate that in a very serious and deep way. It's just nice. It happens. It may come and it may not come as well. Sometimes you're chanting and you remember something you've read and it's very nice and it's nice, it's good. But then the next day you're trying to, you're trying to be attentive. You can't even keep your mind steady, you know. So it's kind of when it happens at earlier stages, it comes by Krishna's grace, so it's good, it's not bad, it's not wrong. But in order to cultivate that type of smaran seriously, it takes a certain level of purity, you know. So yeah, if it comes, that's Krishna's grace, it's Krishna's mercy.
Thank you, Prabhu.
You can see how it's quite a deep discussion, isn't it? And it can be quite individual for each devotee. So we're just giving you general principles here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, wonderful to be with devotees in London again, all three of you, or perhaps those who listen to the recording. Nice to have your association again. And let's get together next week. And hopefully, next week I'll tell you the day before, yeah? Give devotees more time. Okay. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare
Srila
Krishna.
Bhakti Swami ki jai. Ikalina Shri Ram
Vanchakalpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarushakarpatarusha Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Bol. I can't
Hare
see how
Krishna.
to end the class. Okay, we'll start. Oh, okay. Okay, I found the button. Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare.